My name is Kelly. I'm a 49-year-old office worker, and I take pride in my job. Recently, I got promoted, which only fueled my passion for what I do. If it weren't for this company, where I began as a fresh graduate, I might not have even met my husband, Sam. He was my senior in college, but back then, we hardly knew each other beyond the occasional encounter at freshman orientation. Sam and I didn't immediately hit it off. In fact, after joining the company, I didn't even remember him at first. I was fully absorbed in my work, striving to climb the career ladder. But then, at a new employee welcome party, Sam approached me, and suddenly, memories of college orientation flooded back. We began to talk more, to share snacks, and eventually, lunches. Gradually, our interactions evolved into something more, and we started going out together. Sam was straightforward about his intentions. He wanted a serious relationship leading to marriage. It took about 6 months for him to confess his feelings, but by then, I was already falling for him. Our relationship was steady and comforting. We met each other's parents, and after about 2 years of dating, we tied the knot. It wasn't a whirlwind romance, but it was solid and filled with contentment. When our son Mike came into our lives, our happiness only seemed to grow. But then, things began to change. Sam started acting differently, distracted, distant. At first, I chalked it up to work stress or maybe just a phase. But as time passed, his behavior became more concerning. He seemed secretive, often glued to his phone, and sometimes, I caught him exchanging cryptic messages. I tried to ignore the signs, hoping they were just figments of my imagination. But then came the phone call from Kyle, urgently asking me to rush to the hospital. Confused, I glanced at my son Mike, who was sitting right there, absorbed in his studies. There was no reason for me to hurry to the hospital for some kid I didn't even know. When I realized Kyle mistook me for Mike's mom, I felt a surge of frustration and anger. It seemed like a small misunderstanding, but in that moment, it symbolized a much larger issue. Sam had been hiding something from me for 4 years. Ignoring his pleas for forgiveness, I hung up the phone, determined to confront him and unravel the truth. Rolling up my sleeves, I steeled myself for the conversation ahead. Whatever secrets Sam had been keeping, I was ready to uncover them. With work and life, birthdays were always special occasions in our household. Mike's birthday was no exception. As he entered his senior year of high school, I wanted to make it memorable, despite the growing tension between Sam and me. That day, I had gone all out, baking his favorite cake and preparing a special dinner. But as the evening wore on, Sam's absence hung in the air like a heavy cloud. When I finally asked him where he was going, his response was dismissive. Just up for a bit. I knew something was off. Despite the years of strain in our relationship, I still hoped for some semblance of normalcy, especially on occasions like this. But Sam's nonchalant attitude only fueled my frustration. As the evening progressed, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. When Sam finally returned, much later than usual, I confronted him about his whereabouts. His explanation was flimsy, and I couldn't ignore the lingering scent of perfume on him. It wasn't just about the lipstick stains on his shirts anymore. It was about the disrespect, the disregard for our family, and the blatant lies. 3 years of tolerating his behavior had taken its toll, and on that night, something inside me snapped. Despite the facade of normalcy we tried to maintain for Mike's sake, it became clear that our marriage was beyond repair. The love that once bound us together had withered away, leaving behind only bitterness and resentment. But even in the midst of our crumbling relationship, there were moments of clarity, moments when I realized that some things were unforgivable, no matter how much time had passed. And on that fateful night, as we celebrated our son's birthday without his father, I knew that it was time to confront the truth and make some difficult decisions. His responsibilities as a husband and father suddenly made sense. It wasn't just work stress or a phase he was going through, it was a whole other life he was living. As I stood there, hidden from view, watching Sam interact with another woman and their child, a mix of emotions washed over me. Anger, betrayal, and sadness mingled together, threatening to overwhelm me. How could he have kept this hidden from me for so long? In that moment, the decision to divorce him felt more justified than ever. The man I thought I knew, the man I had built a life with, had been living a lie. And as much as it pained me to accept it, I knew I couldn't continue living in denial. Leaving Sam behind, I focused on building a new future for myself and Mike. Moving out of our old home was the first step towards reclaiming our independence and starting fresh. With the support of my parents, I began the search for a new place to call home, a place where Mike and I could rebuild our lives together. As I browsed through listings and visited potential properties, a sense of excitement welled up inside me. Despite the heartache of the past few years, I allowed myself to dream of a brighter future, one where we could leave behind the pain of the past and move forward with hope. And then, by chance, I stumbled upon a property that seemed like it was meant to be. It was close to the university Mike wanted to attend, making his commute easier. It was a small, cozy house that felt like it could be our own little sanctuary, a fresh start for both of us. But as I stood there, picturing our future in that house, fate intervened once again. I heard Sam's voice nearby, and instinctively, I hid from view, not wanting to confront him. But what I saw next stopped me in my tracks. There he was, Sam, with another woman and their child, a family that he had kept hidden from me all this time. In that moment, the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, confirming what I had suspected all along. As I watched them, a sense of clarity washed over me. The timing of Sam's coldness, his neglect of our family, it all made sense now. And with that realization, the decision to divorce him became more than just a choice, it was a necessity for my own sanity and for the well-being of Mike. Gathering my resolve, I knew that I couldn't let this revelation hold me back. It was time to move forward, to leave behind the pain and betrayal of the past and embrace the promise of a new beginning. And as I walked away from that scene, I knew that I was finally ready to start a new chapter in my life, one where I was in control of my own destiny. And held my breath as I waited for the news. The voice on the other end confirmed what I had been anxiously anticipating: Mike had been accepted into the university of his choice. Relief washed over me, mingling with a sense of pride for my son's achievement. But amidst the joy of the moment, there was another emotion simmering beneath the surface, a burning desire for justice, for retribution against the man who had betrayed us. With Mike's future secured, I was ready to unleash the full extent of my plan. As I hung up the phone, I knew that the time had come to set my revenge into motion. With the evidence gathered by the detective, I had everything I needed to expose Sam's deceit and bring him to his knees. But first, I needed to ensure that Mike remained unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. With a forced smile, I congratulated him on his acceptance and promised to celebrate properly later. Deep down, I knew that this moment was just the calm before the storm. With meticulous planning, I orchestrated the downfall of Sam and his mistress, meticulously gathering evidence and building my case. Every piece of information, every photograph, was a step closer to vindication. And then, the day of reckoning arrived. With the evidence in hand, I confronted Sam and his mistress, laying bare the extent of their betrayal. The shock and horror on their faces mirrored the pain that I had endured for so long. But as satisfying as it was to see them squirm, my ultimate victory lay in knowing that I had protected my son and secured his future. With Sam out of our lives for good, I could finally breathe a sigh of relief and focus on rebuilding our lives. As for Sam and his mistress, they would have to live with the consequences of their actions, a punishment far greater than anything I could inflict upon them. And as I watched them fade into the distance, I knew that justice had been served, and that my son and I could finally move forward, free from the shadows of the past. As Sam stood there, trying to maintain his composure in the face of our cold stares, I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. For years, I had endured his lies and betrayal, but now, with Mike by my side, I felt empowered in a way I hadn't before. But even as I relished in the newfound strength of my son's support, I couldn't shake the feeling of sadness that lingered beneath the surface. Mike had grown up witnessing the breakdown of our family, and it pained me to see him shouldering the burden of our fractured relationship. As Sam attempted to deflect Mike's icy glare with forced pleasantries, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity for him. Here was a man who had once been a part of our family, now reduced to a trembling shadow of his former self. But any sympathy I felt was quickly overshadowed by the anger and resentment that still burned within me. Sam's attempts to regain control of the situation only served to fuel my determination to see justice served. With a steely resolve, I turned to face him, my voice cold and steady. "You have no right to speak to him like that," I said, my words cutting through the tension in the room. "You lost that privilege the moment you betrayed us." Sam recoiled at my words, his facade crumbling in the face of my unwavering resolve. For the first time, he seemed to realize the gravity of his actions, and the consequences that awaited him. But even as Sam stood there, speechless and defeated, I knew that this was just the beginning of our journey toward healing. With Mike by my side, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that together, we could overcome anything. And as we stood there, united in our determination to move forward, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope for the future, a future where we could finally leave behind the pain and betrayal of the past, and embrace the promise of a new beginning. Of his responsibilities, but he always brushed me off, claiming that he was too busy with work. Over time, I grew accustomed to shouldering the financial burden on my own, but I never imagined that it would come to this, a heated argument in front of our son, laying bare the cracks in our marriage for all to see. As Sam's accusations flew, I felt a surge of anger rising within me. How dare he blame me for his own shortcomings as a father? How dare he try to shift the blame onto me, when it was his actions that had led us to this point? But even as I bristled at his words, I refused to stoop to his level. I refused to let his toxic behavior drag me down any further. With a steely resolve, I stood my ground, refusing to be swayed by his attempts to deflect responsibility. As the argument reached its climax, I could see the hurt and confusion in Mike's eyes, and it broke my heart to see him caught in the middle of our marital strife. But even amidst the chaos, I knew that I had to stay strong, for Mike's sake, and for my own. With a deep breath, I finally spoke, my voice steady and unwavering. "Enough, Sam," I said, cutting through his tirade with a calm authority. "This is not the time or the place for this argument. We will discuss this later, in private." With that, I turned away from Sam, refusing to dignify his outburst with a response. Instead, I focused my attention on Mike, offering him a reassuring smile. "Let's go, Mike," I said, taking his hand in mine. "We'll find somewhere else to celebrate, just the two of us." As we left the house, leaving Sam behind in a cloud of anger and frustration, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. In that moment, I knew that I had made the right decision, to stand up for myself and for my son, and to refuse to be dragged down by Sam's toxicity any longer. And as we walked away, hand in hand, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, as a family. Stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. I shook my head, my patience wearing thin. "This is no joke, Juliana," I said firmly. "Sam has debts and is barely able to manage his own finances, let alone support another child." But Juliana seemed unfazed by my words, her laughter ringing through the courtyard. "You're just trying to scare me off," she said, her tone mocking. "But it won't work. Sam loves me, and he'll do whatever it takes to support our family." I could feel my frustration mounting as Juliana continued to dismiss the seriousness of the situation. Did she truly believe that Sam was capable of providing for her and their child when he couldn't even fulfill his responsibilities to his own family? But as much as I wanted to shake some sense into her, I knew that it would be futile. Juliana was too blinded by her own delusions to see the truth staring her in the face. With a resigned sigh, I made one last attempt to reason with her. "Juliana, I'm not trying to scare you," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I'm trying to protect you and your child from a future of uncertainty and hardship. Sam may have promised you the world, but the reality is far from what you imagine." But Juliana just waved off my concerns, her confidence unwavering. "I don't need your protection, Kelly," she said dismissively. "Sam and I will figure things out together, just like we always have." With that, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling a mix of frustration and pity for her. It was clear that Juliana was in for a rude awakening, but no amount of warning could convince her otherwise. As I watched her disappear from sight, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for Juliana, Sam, and their unborn child. But one thing was certain: whatever challenges lay ahead, they would have to face them without me. With a heavy heart, I turned and headed back inside, steeling myself for the difficult days that lay ahead. The divorce proceedings were far from over, and there were still many obstacles to overcome. But as I sat down at my computer, ready to dive back into the chaos of my work, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with the same determination and resilience that had carried me through the darkest days of my marriage. And with Mike by my side, I was confident that we would emerge stronger than ever before, ready to embrace whatever the future held. For the two of them, standing there in their delusion of victory. I set down the tea tray with a steely resolve, refusing to let their presence rattle me. "Sam, we need to talk," I said, my voice calm but firm. "There are some things we need to discuss before we can move forward with the divorce proceedings." Sam's expression shifted from confusion to concern as he looked at me, sensing the gravity of the situation. "What's going on, Kelly?" he asked, his voice tinged with apprehension. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "First of all, the house," I began, directing my words at Sam. "As I explained to Juliana, the house is in my name, and you have no legal claim to it. Combined with your infidelity and failure to contribute to the household expenses, the divorce will be due to your fault, and there will be no division of property." Sam's face paled at my words, his earlier confidence crumbling in an instant. But I promised Juliana," he stammered, his voice trailing off as he struggled to comprehend the situation. "And as for alimony," I continued, turning my attention to Juliana, "you should know that Sam's debts from his affair will eat up most of his assets. There won't be much left for you." Juliana's expression shifted from disbelief to anger, her earlier bravado replaced by a sense of betrayal. "But he promised me everything," she protested, her voice rising in frustration. I shook my head, feeling a surge of pity for the woman standing before me. "Promises mean nothing when they're built on lies," I said, my voice tinged with sadness. "You've been deceived, Juliana, just like I was." As the reality of the situation sank in, Juliana's shoulders slumped in defeat, her earlier confidence shattered by the harsh truth. And as Sam stood there, his face pale and his eyes filled with regret, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the man I once loved. But even as I felt a twinge of compassion for them both, I knew that I couldn't let their deceit go unpunished. They had tried to manipulate and deceive me, but they had underestimated my strength and resilience. With a sense of finality, I stood up from the table, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "I think it's time for you both to leave," I said, my voice steady and unwavering. "There's nothing more to discuss." And as Sam and Juliana shuffled out of the room, defeated and disillusioned, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. The road ahead would be difficult, but I knew that I was ready to face it head-on, armed with the knowledge that I had emerged from this ordeal stronger and more resilient than ever before. I nodded in agreement with Mike's words, feeling a sense of pride wash over me at his unwavering support. "That's right, Juliana," I said, my voice steady and resolute. "You and Sam are not welcome here anymore. You've both betrayed my trust and disrespected our family, and I won't tolerate it any longer." As the weight of my words sank in, Juliana's face contorted with anger and indignation. "How dare you speak to me like that?" she spat, her voice laced with venom. "I won't forget this, Kelly. You'll regret crossing me." But I remained unmoved by her threats, knowing that I had the upper hand in this situation. With the evidence of their affair laid bare for all to see, there was nothing Juliana could do to salvage her reputation. As Sam and Juliana stormed out of the house, their voices filled with rage and frustration, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The chapter of my life that had been dominated by their deceit and betrayal was finally coming to a close. And as I watched them disappear from sight, I knew that I was finally free from their toxic influence. From now on, I would focus on rebuilding my life and moving forward with Mike by my side, leaving behind the pain and heartache of the past. With a renewed sense of determination, I turned back to my laptop, ready to dive back into the work that awaited me. The road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, but I was confident that I could face whatever obstacles came my way. After all, I had weathered the storm of betrayal and emerged stronger than ever before. And with Mike's unwavering support and the knowledge that I had stood up for myself in the face of adversity, I knew that I could handle whatever the future had in store. I nodded in agreement with Mike's words, feeling a sense of pride wash over me at his unwavering support. "That's right, Juliana," I said, my voice steady and resolute. "You and Sam are not welcome here anymore. You both betrayed my trust and disrespected our family, and I won't tolerate it any longer." As the weight of my words sank in, Juliana's face contorted with anger and indignation. "How dare you speak to me like that?" she spat, her voice laced with venom. "I won't forget this, Kelly. You'll regret crossing me." But I remained unmoved by her threats, knowing that I had the upper hand in this situation. With the evidence of their affair laid bare for all to see, there was nothing Juliana could do to salvage her reputation. As Sam and Juliana stormed out of the house, their voices filled with rage and frustration, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The chapter of my life that had been dominated by their deceit and betrayal was finally coming to a close. And as I watched them disappear from sight, I knew that I was finally free from their toxic influence. From now on, I would focus on rebuilding my life and moving forward with Mike by my side, leaving behind the pain and heartache of the past. With a renewed sense of determination, I turned back to my laptop, ready to dive back into the work that awaited me. The road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, but I was confident that I could face whatever obstacles came my way. After all, I had weathered the storm of betrayal and emerged stronger than ever before. And with Mike's unwavering support and the knowledge that I had stood up for myself in the face of adversity, I knew that I could handle whatever the future